back down, because there's a greater passion and a greater love in you that cannot be quenched. Can you hear me? Can you hear me tonight? There is a greater love in you that cannot be quenched by the trial that you are facing tonight.
Amen.
You love him more than these. You love him more than these. And it hurt, but I still love you. I'm wounded, but God, I still love you. I'm facing a mountain, but God, I still love you. There's a giant in my path, but God, I still love you. It's that kind of love that will cross us over. It's that kind of love that will keep us fighting in the day where we feel like giving up.
Come on.
Destiny brought David to the path of Goliath. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah was a man of passion. He was passionate about what God had called him to do. For the Bible tells us of Nehemiah that he was a cupbearer of the king, separated from the place of Israel and from the Jerusalem, now living in the Babylonian Empire. But having a lofty position, cupbearer of the king. But when Nehemiah hears of the state of Jerusalem, he inquires, how do the people there fare? What is the state of the city? And they tell him the walls are burned with fire. Everything is broken down. It's a horrible state of affairs in Jerusalem. Something turns him. Something shifts. What he's doing now isn't the most important thing. Something just happened and a passion just lit up inside of him. He weeps. What moves you to the place where you weep? When was the last time you wept for somebody else? It's easy to get so callous in this world where nothing matters anymore. We don't care for one another. But there was an assignment for Nehemiah, and his passion was leading him the way. He can't even hide it in the presence of the king. The king notices that his countenance is off. He says, "What's going on with you, Nehemiah? You're not sick, and this can only be sorrow of heart." And Nehemiah becomes afraid, because to show emotion in the presence of the king could often mean death. But he, risking it all, lays it out and says, "My city, my home, is in ruins. How else could I be? How else could I be? There's nothing I could do." And the king says, "What are you asking me?" And so when Nehemiah comes before the king with his request, he said, "Let me go and rebuild the walls." He has gone from a place of passion now and shifted into the place of purpose. His passion has helped him find his purpose. That burden that was on the inside of him has now moved him into the assignment, because God was looking for a man. God was wanting to raise somebody up. God wanted to rebuild the city. God wanted to restore his people, but he was looking for a vessel. Amen. And Nehemiah goes. But it's no time at all until there's resistance. A good way to know you're on the right track is when you meet some resistance. A good way to know you're preaching well is when everybody gets quiet. And you tell me I'm tuned right in where I need to be. He meets resistance, critics, haters, doubters, complainers. People that were willing to do everything they could do to obstruct what it was that God had called him to do. Oh, but I wish it was just easy. I wish that I didn't have to deal with people like that. But yet that lies in the road of destiny, where we have an adversary who is trying to stop God's kingdom from advancing in this earth. and trying to shut down God's voice, trying to stop God's people from being bold, trying to stop God's people from being prayerful, trying to stop God's people from being worshipers, trying to stop God's people from gathering together, whatever he can do to scatter the sheep, keep us discouraged, keep us frustrated, keep us confused, and instead of loving one another and loving the Lord, keep us bickering with each other and taking our eyes off of God. But Nehemiah persevered and he pressed on despite the critics and despite the haters. And he began to build. Hallelujah. I want you to know tonight that I didn't come to Brockville just to maintain. I came to have revival.
Amen.
Right? Yeah. I came to see a move of God.
Hallelujah.
Nehemiah didn't come just to take an observation and take an account of everything that was wrong. Just see it for himself. He came with an objective, and he came to get something done. The haters didn't seem to matter so much. At least it didn't stop him from doing what he had intended to do. And so he began to build. And the more he began to build, the more the haters began to talk. The better he did, the more they complained. Sometimes it's not until you get on the right track that the people that should have been in your corner and you thought were in your corner are the ones that are discouraging you the most. They don't understand what's taking place with you. They don't understand what's happening for you. They don't realize you're shedding your skin now. And you're stepping into what God has called you into. Some people liked you better when you were pitiful. Some folks